Good evening, everybody. How we doing?
Good evening. Hello, Brimfield. So, we're going to start again.
Yep.
I'm going to start this every week by saying, I'm Mike Doyle.
Yeah, and I'm Paul McCarthy. Good to see you.
That's my new thing.
There you go. All right, so that way people know who we are.
That's right.
All right, so we did have, well, we had a couple things. Maybe we'll just go over the advertisement of that special town meeting real quick because I had that already kind of propped up a bit. Special town meeting, it is to go over the zoning for the flooding, for the flood zones, and we've mentioned this a few times. This is coming up just in a couple weeks, so we figured we'd do that as a special advertisement. Now, the next thing that we could potentially talk about, the agenda, well, this is the agenda from this past Tuesday, just yesterday.
Yeah?
Just yesterday. And it was at, well, it was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so that makes it a little bit hard for people to kind of get there a bit, but it was there. And anyways, so you want to talk about that meeting? Did you go to it by chance?
I didn't. I heard there was one person that went, and that was Eva Pitzinger, who was there as the first agenda item.
Too, yep.
Yeah, it's just, again,
Yeah.
They don't really care about public participation.
Yeah.
That's obvious.
There was no effort. It wasn't like they changed it for a reason. They
No.
chose it right off the bat, and I don't know. It's to me 4 o'clock. Maybe if you had no other time that you could get everybody together.
If it's an emergency,
okay. But
I get it.
It's just too much. It's just to me, it's a little bit. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
exclusionary.
Yeah. And I could see if it's going to be a long meeting, which I guess, reviewing the budget could have been. But, from talking to people, it was an hour long.
Oh.
So it was done by 5.
What was the IT grant? Do you
So-
know anything about it? I mean, do you know anything about the items? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Yeah, so the Senior Center wants to do an IT grant for seniors opportunity. This is a grant that they've been tracking, the Senior Center and Eva. And it's, and I know, and I should know right off the top of my head, but I believe it's something to help seniors get connected to
get
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 IT
online.
infrastructure, yeah. And it's some serious money, and it would be an amazing thing to get done.
Is it going to be used for actual hardware or for like the senior center or for the senior housing?
It's I believe
individuals?
for individuals.
Okay, is it going to offset maybe internet costs and things like that? Maybe
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
But we'd have to get the official word, and I'm sorry, I don't know it for sure.
That's good. We'll find out. Maybe we can get Eva to come on. With a little bit more detail too, just to kind of see. And then we when it keeps coming up, as far as so what was that to present an IT grant? Did they get it? Or the opportunity is there?
No,
to
the
apply
opportunity
for
is
it?
there, and she needs the select board to sign off. And
I'm assuming they did.
They did.
Yeah.
They got the approval, and it's good because this is actually a grant that's going to finally utilize our grant writer, who's a senior tax work-off person, who could have helped with the ARPA grants,
right,
at no cost to the ARPA grant.
That's great. No, that's good.
So, and it also means that our senior tax work-off person will actually get some taxes worked off.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is the whole reason for doing it.
Nice.
And this board has been hasn't had her do a darn thing. And instead they want to push Teresa to do more and more grants.
I thought they even made an agreement with that other one.
And the ARPA grant, ARPA funds are from Springfield. Yeah.
But it's a positive week. But they did have an agenda, so we're going to stay positive with this. All right. The second item on the agenda was the Hitchcock Free Academy request for placing signage on the town common to announce the May 6th plant sale. That's a no-brainer. I mean,
Yeah,
that's pretty
that
straight up,
happens
you know,
every
that
year.
happens, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
The rescinding of the April 24th vote approving the town warrant, that's, again, that was more of a secretarial thing because there was an addition of a bylaw.
Right.
So so that they authorize it and then had to change it so that they could put something in, and then if you look the next line, they
Voted to
amended
amend
it,
it.
and then
Yeah, it doesn't
I'm
say
assuming
vote.
they voted to accept it as well,
Right.
and with the amendment. So I'm sure that's what happened with that next one. And then review of the budget. That's an interesting one. I mean, by now, the select board should have already reviewed every budget that they oversee. They should have at least had an inkling of what was going on. But in the reality of things, the budgets are going to be presented through FinCom to kind of get their perspective on it, but they're going to be presented to the annual town meeting. And then that's where it gets voted yes or no. So reviewing it and going over line by line, there's no way they did that, right?
No.
I mean, I can't imagine they did that. Did they go over just the select board
They
part of
did.
it?
Well, they went over quite a bit, and this is from people who saw it on TV.
Right.
We're saying it was very good to see Mr. Soto actually, start questioning the select board budget, which
Now's not the time. The select board budget should have been being discussed in February or March.
right.
You know what I mean? This is kind of the 11th hour to kind
But-
of do that stuff. But I agree.
As we've said multiple times here, the problem has been that they just,
Yeah.
they didn't discuss anything.
Right.
So this may have been, it appears that this was the first time that Mr. Soto really saw those changes, and
Right.
which is,
Well, I think it's the first time.
Inexcusable.
I mean, we should have known. We should have heard the details of the police budget presented by the
Yeah.
police in a meeting. We should have seen everybody who had a change or a need or whatnot present their budget at an open meeting, and we
Right.
didn't see that much.
we didn't see virtually any.
Yeah.
Did we see any?
I mean, I don't think so. Honestly, I saw more at the FinCom meeting.
Oh yeah, FinCom.
Town clerk presented, but again, that was a gracious thing because they don't have to. The
Right.
town clerk, that position has its own budget and doesn't have to be approved or disapproved or whatnot by the select board. So the town clerk could easily have not even presented, and yet I believe she did in that position. Presented,
Wanting.
yeah, just
The
kind of like, this is
board's
my
backing.
plan, and I think that was really good because
Yeah.
it shows her way of thinking, and it was like, this is what I'm thinking.
Would that way of thinking be collaborative?
Collaborative and
Collaborative.
informative, so that the community
Informative.
knew what was going on. So
Whoa.
people knew what was going on. So it wasn't, oh, I didn't know she was putting that in.
Wait, did
know?
you say community too?
I did. I went with all the keywords.
Wow, collaborative
But
community.
but there should have been. I mean, a lot of budgets should have come through. That honestly, the treasury budget
oh yeah,
should have been discussed in the select board meeting, not just in FinCom.
right.
You know what I mean? Because quite honestly, quite honestly, they didn't collectively
Correct.
talk about it in an open meeting. So they didn't vote on it.
Right.
As far as I know, they didn't vote on it, except maybe in this review, they said, okay, yeah, we'll accept everything. Well, they didn't talk about it. They didn't really get
Yeah.
into the nitty gritty with that, except at FinCom. That's not how budgets
And,
work.
and it was only one select person there
at
at
FinCom.
FinCom.
Right.
And I believe it was her, the vice chair, her decisions on the budget. And she didn't ask anybody. And
Right.
this board continues to act independently
Right.
and not as a board.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've already got a homogenous board where most of the board thinks alike.
Right.
They're from the same constituents. They're pushing their will on the remainder of the residents, which, because they got the most votes, they can. But it's just a dangerous position for anything.
Right.
I'm going to get into national politics for just a second.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Where I tend to like when there's a what do they call it? A divided
House
government.
Yep.
I like the Republican majority in the Congress with the Democratic. You don't get a whole lot done, but you don't mess a whole lot of stuff up.
Right.
If there's stuff to be done,
You got to convince them.
you got to convince.
Right.
You got to work together, and it should be in a functioning government a much better way
Right.
that keeps everybody happy.
Right. I think when you're dealing with a budget and you have so many line items that are under the purview of the select board, they should have given much more. When you're spending money that's not yours, you got to justify it. I don't think they talked openly about spending money hardly ever unless it was a grant or some other thing that was an obvious amount that they had to do. But quite honestly, I thought the lack of that transparency, which is what they were trying to kind of run on before,
Yeah.
is rampant. I mean, I don't know what the police budget is. I don't know if it's higher or lower than before. Honestly, I don't. Even highway. I mean, I trust people to put in a good budget, but I'd like to verify. Right? It's like you'd like to see it.
Trust but verify.
Right.
But,
you'd like to see.
But
it.
Highway is another one of those. He's elected, so he.
Oh, right.
He doesn't have to go.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's true because he used to just notify so we knew what was going on, so we could be. Well, the important, and we'll get to it in a minute when we talk about the town meeting, but the important part of a lot of these is to have everybody in the know so that FinCom can say, yes, we support something, and Select Board can say, yes, we support it as well. Rather than having everybody just be all over the place and not know what you're talking about.
Right. I will say, going back to the police budget,
excuse me.
One of the things that I'm very, very concerned about with the police budget is, I think Marty counseled Chief Beaudry, and he has shrunk his chief's hours. Chief's wages
30.
from 35 or 37.
So shrunk it by hours.
Yeah.
So take the same salary per hour and shrunk it down by hours, or is it going to be the same salary but less hours?
No, both less hours and less salary.
Yeah, because it's proportional.
Which is a very dangerous course. We've almost gotten to a point that the police chief was compensated fairly compared to his peers.
Right.
And now, because our current police chief is tied to a certain number of hours because he's collecting retirement from another community in Massachusetts.
That's what it is.
He has cut that budget down to what his salary is going to be instead of keeping the budget the same, so that when he retires, we don't have to deal with the same thing that we dealt with the treasurer
and whatnot to kind of get it fixed.
Yeah, it's very short-sighted, which is exactly what this board is.
And the Treasury, department, yes, hours have changed, titles were changed. I didn't hear anything about money. I heard nothing about money.
There were a lot of suggestions.
A lot of suggestions about adding a clerk and adding hours and whatnot. And there's adding hours and more hours and a clerk for the admin. For administrative assistant to the select board. But it got mentioned here and there, but I never heard a collective, here's what we're going to do, this is the budget we're going to go through, and this is what we're going to do, and a vote on it. And I don't think I saw that. Or maybe I missed it, but did we miss it? I mean...
I don't think so.
Yeah, it just wasn't clear. If we missed it, it was in there once in a while, and maybe I did miss it, but...
Yeah.
All right. So, and I think so. As far as the budget goes, again, the budget doesn't start and stop with the select board. It's everybody's a collective, and they put it through. FinCom kind of gives their, and then it starts and stops at the people voting at the annual town meeting. So that's where it's all about.
Right.
All right. So should we talk about? Are you good with that? Should we talk about the warrant? All right. In case anybody's in... I thought we weren't going to do that. We can. I don't have that set up. You want to do that?
Nope.
I can set it up real quick.
We'll do it next time.
All right, we'll do it next time. Couple things have been.
We're staying positive.
Yep, we are. We're gonna stay positive
Now.
We're staying positive now, right? Okay. So if everybody knows that everybody should know, we're going to tell you that the annual town warrant that has been amended and approved is up on the town website,
Right.
as is the election ballot. And so we'll kind of come to that. We're going to probably leave that for a different episode, I think.
Right.
But we'll go talk about the town meeting warrant is up there, and if everybody wants to kind of download it, you can follow along with us, we can. You can do that, or we'll just kind of give a little bit of a brief review about what we're looking at as we go here. So, again, the town meeting is going to be June 12th, and it's at 6, right? I think it's at 6.
Yeah.
This doesn't have the time, but that's all right. I think it's...
Yeah, 6.
Oh, it has it on the second page.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay. Yeah,
Monday,
yeah,
June
yeah,
12th
yeah.
at 6.
All right. And so, yeah. So if people want to kind of look through, really, it's kind of an introduction, and there's a little bit of a review on that first page. Anything you want to talk about with that?
No, I mean, I think that's. I don't remember seeing this, and I may
No,
not.
I think it's kind of good, actually.
Yeah, I really like that it does say funds acquired through borrowing required 2/3 vote.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the zoning bylaw and amendments require 2/3 vote, and it really tells us what's required.
Right. Right.
And I didn't realize payment of bills from prior fiscal year. We've never had to do that. And that's when something runs in the negative,
Okay.
and it doesn't get. This is what was one of the suggestions from FinCom for the treasurer collector, who took more money than he was allotted, and the select board
Right.
let him, as we've played out on different
Yep.
episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But had he had to go in front of the town and ask for these monies,
Right.
it would have required a 4/5 vote.
4/5. That's a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a big percentage. That's pretty impressive, actually.
and then a 9/10 vote at a special town meeting. I mean, that's crazy. I didn't realize that at all.
It requires 2. So I want to. Okay, so that's why I put in there just for information only. It's not like they anticipate something.
No. This is all just
Just
information.
information only. That's what I thought. Good. All right. So there are your rules, kind of at the top there, and then we get into the articles. I don't know how much we want to get into. A lot of them are repetitive year to year, and we'll kind of get into them a little bit. There are the reports of the officers and agents. Basically, they don't actually do verbal reports, right? The reports go into
They're in the town report.
They're going to be in the town report, which is the book that you can get. I'm assuming you can get it online as well. And it will have, it's supposed to have a summary of what happened over the last year, and both good and bad. You're supposed to kind of summarize. Basically, it's like a State of the Union, only it's a state of the town by departments. And so it is quite informative. I'm itching to read it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to see. You're supposed to get an update on everything that been, hopefully that's been done.
Yeah, including every lawsuit that's
Right.
that's active through the year,
The status of lawsuits.
which would be
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, just
with
see where
this
things
board.
are, because we haven't heard anything in a bit.
No.
All right, Article 2.
One
what else was it?
interesting thing with the town reports,
Okay.
which always screwed me up, was that these reports are done on a calendar year. So it's very strange.
I remember
Almost
that.
everything in a town is run on the fiscal year, which is July 1 to June 30. But the town report, for whatever reason, is only January to December.
Yeah, I remember coming into that when we had to write it before. That was interesting.
So in the old days, when we were on the select board, when we were chair, we would write the annual report, and it was something that I would write half the year. I wrote half the year, then I'd talk to you and ask you what the other half of the year was.
Yeah.
You know, and get your input.
Right. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
And I'm sure that task has been handed off to Teresa.
Probably, yeah.
I think it was last year even. I don't think when we were on it. Oh no,
no,
Suzanne
it was because we didn't sign it.
Right.
We didn't sign it
Right.
because it had
She wrote it all
omissions.
herself.
It had omissions and things that we weren't necessarily in agreement with.
Right.
So
Editorial comments.
That's the other thing is when you have these, and it's coming from say the planning board or the select board or whatnot. You know, you write it and you have a vote, and the group votes to do it, yes or no,
Yeah.
or change it. And usually there's a little bit of compromise, and you write it so that it kind of accomplishes the goals of everybody. I do remember having, I mean, we got one. It wasn't going to be edited. It was
Right.
That was the way it was going to be put in, and that was it. And
Yeah.
so I know we voted no. And usually everybody's signature went on the page I mean, I know it did on at least a couple of times. I know there was some debate about whether or not one person signed it or not. In this particular instance, one person signed it.
Right.
Last year, one person signed it, but it was hard to really get your point that you didn't vote for it.
Right.
So we didn't vote for it, but
Because it was full
I
of
kind of expected.
errors and omissions.
Yes, I kind of expected everybody's signature to be on the page like it had been, and then just wanted mine not to be there.
Right.
Just to make a statement, to be honest, but alas, it didn't work out that way. But
Right.
For the record.
Yeah, that was not a board of select or a select board report.
Right.
That was a Suzanne Collins special.
Right. And honestly, I don't think I've heard this
No.
the report even being discussed in an open meeting and with this board. So who wrote it, and how could it be looked at, and how could it represent the select board? It's, it obviously, whatever, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But it is what it is. It'd be interesting to see what the read is,
That's right.
what it turns into. But all right.
Flowers and sunshine.
Flowers and sunshine. Oh, that's nice, actually. All right, Article 2.
Can't wait to see the treasurer's report.
Who's going to write it?
Yeah.
Marie? I don't know.
Oh.
She wouldn't want to.
All right.
All right.
We digress.
So, Article 2, I don't know if we want to go through. Do you want to zip through some of these?
We did get a question.
Okay.
We've got a couple of these revolving funds.
Okay.
And to be honest, I don't know what all of them mean. The bike trail revolving fund, this is something that we've done for as long as I've lived here.
Yeah.
Because it's, we've got a great trail committee, and they are very proactive with grants. And it's one of those things, we put in the $5,000, and that shows skin in the game for all these grants.
Right.
And they also maintain the trail. Every now and again, they'll buy a bunch of not dirt.
For the trails, just
yeah,
mulch
the gravel,
and, things like
mulch.
that. Yeah, just
Yeah.
trail fixer-upper things.
That's right.
Can you explain what a revolving fund is?
So a revolving fund is, when you're dealing with municipal finance,
Mhm.
you've got usual, common line items that if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
And revolving funds, you do have the ability to fund these things, and then if you don't use it on any given year, like we're saying, they don't necessarily need to mulch every year down at the trail.
Right.
But every third or fourth year, they'll take $10,000, $15,000 out and do a big trail improvement project.
Right.
So this is a way to, instead of having us every third or fourth year ask for $15,000, $20,000 for the trails, we just keep stocking a small amount.
All right. And so it says basically, so does a revolving fund necessarily then have to have this disposition itemized on it, like it is on it? So, like, if reauthorized, the amount shall carry forward and to the subsequent year, and the next one it shall close to the general fund. So do you have to stipulate where it goes if it's not dropped to zero? Because it goes to zero until the next ATM, and then it starts at zero and you refund it.
Yeah.
In theory, except like what you said, well, maybe if you allow it to carry over
Right.
that fund, but it doesn't show up.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
And so so the bike trail revolving fund does that. It's carrying over all the time so that when they need it, they have it.
Okay.
Then you've got the next one down, bins and bags revolving fund. This is so that we can purchase a bunch of bins and bags January 1st or July 1st.
Right.
And that will take us through the year. But, or at least even, we may not even need all that money.
Right.
Because through the year, people go and buy the bags.
Right.
And that money goes back into the revolving fund.
Gotcha.
Or actually to the general fund. So
basically it's seed money to make sure that we've got product, and then it gets almost
right
complemented by what people go to companies and they buy their bag and whatnot.
Yeah, and I believe in the Board of Health annual report, they'll show how much money came in from the bins and bags.
Okay.
So you can check with that, and I would think, we don't make money, but it's I would assume we get the $35,000 back, and then just every year
you just seed it back like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I don't know about some of the stipulations on these other ones, but so that's kind of how these work anyways in general. Right. A free authorized amount shall carry forward to the conservation. So
right. Yeah. Conservation, same type of thing. They use this to help seed the value engineers and different studies that they may need that if you're an applicant, you're going to pay for, but that will happen afterwards.
Right. The engineers don't want to wait for that necessarily. Right. They want some of the money in advance. So, all right, at least.
Right. So that's what most of these things are.
Okay.
The one question, and please, if anybody knows better than me,
yeah, right.
You can chime in. The one that was asked about was the tobacco revolving fund.
Oh yeah, the old tobacco revolving fund. Let's see what's it say.
And I have no idea.
I don't even remember that ever.
No.
Now that may
I'm
be
sure it's always been there, but
they all just say, "Do you want?" And everybody says, "Yeah, okay." You know what I mean? They do this all as one article, and it gets through. So close it. So that may be one to put a hold on. So all right. So this is how that would work. If you wanted to, you could say no. Or if you have a question, you could make it known to the moderator that you have a question on it, and then they could look at that one particular one and get more of an explanation. So if you don't have enough of a clear understanding of what you're voting on, raise your hand. I mean, that's what this is about. This is the only time where a true democracy comes into play, and it's not a representative democracy, it's a true democracy where you can go in, ask the questions, make a vote, make a stand in one way or the other. So anyhow, so the tobacco, we may be getting clarification, but no, okay.
I thought we might.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so we'll just move to Article 3. Whoopsie, I think I went too far. Sorry, everybody at home. All right, Article 3. So a lot of these early articles are to raise and appropriate. Do you want to explain what that means? Do you?
It's basically
you're going to spend it.
Right. This is... So we have the money in our savings account, and I'm just kind of... They're not the right terms, but hopefully they're a little bit more understandable.
Right.
That when we deal with these financial things, we have our pot of savings in the general fund, in the in free cash, and there's a bunch of money that we have access to.
Mm-hmm.
But the town can't use any of it without the townspeople agreeing to it at this annual town meeting.
Right.
So, raise and appropriate is basically just saying, looking at the budget that you're going to have, can we take that money from our savings account and put it into basically our checking account,
Right.
which would then be used for this year.
Right.
And we're going to keep most of the money still in the savings account that can't be touched by anybody.
Right.
And that's important because, you know, the town really is in good financial standing thanks to FinCom
Yes.
and Marie, the accountant, previous treasurer collectors. You know, we've worked very hard to give us a good
Safety, yeah.
safety net.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Yep.
so we have, you know, you'll hear about the reserve fund,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of the account between the savings account and the checking account that says, if we run into trouble and there are cost overruns, we want to have a big enough pool that we can hopefully use that money,
Mm-hmm.
and that will cover any of those unforeseen issues.
Right. So it's like the emergency fund that you might build into your home
Right.
budget.
Right. It's the stuff that's left underneath your mattress.
Yeah. Yeah. Just say don't use this unless we have to. Kind of
Right.
thing. Excellent.
So
when you look at Article 3 and they're talking about raise and appropriate sum of money for various elected town offices. So what that is basically is the payments for the stipends that are already in the bylaws that are in existence that are going to go for this next fiscal year. So they're going to fund those town officers
Right.
with the stipend and salary and whatnot.
right. So the budget is broken up by, you know, our town officers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's going to be your Board of Selectmen gets a stipend, your Board of Health,
Town clerk.
Planning Board. Is Town Clerk in
Is that
Article 3 or 4?
Um,
And we don't have the budget. I
don't have it in
requested
front
it,
of
but
me.
it's still in draft form.
yeah, I'm not sure.
But that type of thing
Mm-hmm.
is in Article 3. You know, you'll hear me. I'm going to put a hold on the Select Board stipend this year. You know, they want in Article 4 to increase their hours for their assistant to the assistant,
Okay.
because the assistant is doing a lot more work, so she needs to pawn some of her work off onto the assistant to the assistant. My reasoning for putting a hold on the selectman stipend is because we always used to do that work. You know, the
Right.
grants were primarily done by us. You know, the town report, done by us. We lifted a whole lot more than this board will ever want to.
Right.
And because of that, they should get their stipend removed, or at least cut down
Maybe cut
tremendously.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean,
And
I don't see how you could do a lot of that work and not have a computer in front of you when you're at a meeting.
right,
I mean, and clearly they don't even have. I mean, they have papers, but they don't have like reams of papers. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're going through like they want to do it old school or clipboard even.
yeah,
You know, but they should have computers. They should have, because that's the only way you can keep track of what you did and when you submitted it to the state for a grant or whatever, what the status is. The emails that you go back and forth to get information for these grants. So no, I agree. I mean, I don't think we have any.
yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, that's Article 3.
Okay.
Article 4 goes through and it funds all of the departments and the activities throughout town. So
Yeah.
this is your police budget, your planning board budget, your conservation budget that allows them to, you know, buy paper, hire and pay their employees
Right.
and everything in between.
Got the copier fixed and things
Yeah.
like that. Yep. 5 is the so unpaid bills or overdrawn accounts. So that's just to kind of bring them back up to what they should be.
Well, that is there in the event that we need to. They
Gotcha.
don't know, and they won't know until, you know, the night of. This is one of
Right.
those things that usually FinCom will stand up and just say we make a motion to take no action
Right.
on Article 5
Right.
because we don't need to. We've never had to, as far as I know.
Yeah, people should realize that there's actually a FinCom meeting with usually the select board
And town council.
and town council there's a little bit of a powwow just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, that the
I wonder
numbers
if
are
Chesterfield will be
accurate.
there this year.
That that everybody is accurate, that the numbers are accurate, so that things, so you might find things get changed from the actual written numbers in the
Right.
live warrant. In the live meeting, you might see that things have been changed a little bit. And there's usually a handout.
There's always a handout
Yeah.
at the back of the door.
Yeah,
And everybody has to remember to take them because, as soon as we start talking about individual line items, there will be one person in the crowd who says, "That's not the line item I have."
that's not what I have. Yep, exactly right. 100% right. All right. Article 6. Let's see. Flea market administrative.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So this is another one. It's basically the same as one of those revolving funds up above. That, every year we get money in there, and then through the year, we have to pay the bills, and so it's really just a transfer of money to cover
Right.
everything. Because, and this is important because the fiscal year ends in July.
Yes.
So most of the money being made at the flea markets are in the May show.
Right.
So the July show for sure is a loser of a show.
And it's in the next fiscal year.
In the next, right. So the July show by itself can't pay its own bills. So we need to have this.
Right.
Even September is usually a break even.
Right. So this gets funded. So it's got a seed money, which is keeps it at 50. Right.
Yeah.
And then July, September, and then the following May go into it.
Right.
To cover that year's expenses, and then they figure it out at the end of the year, and then going in, and then this is what gets fixed basically, so that we go in with a 50 going
Right.
into the next year to
Right.
start off with. Right.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. And we can
Okay.
maybe we can get into that at some other time.
Yeah.
A little bit more detail. Article 7. And again, there's a particular amount of money. Massachusetts Department of Highway Transportation Highway Division. So these are projects on state roads, Chapter 90 roads. So this is basically the grants that we've gotten for the Chapter 90 roads, right? Basically.
Right.
Yeah. All right. All right. So then we can go up. That's pretty straight up then.
Yep.
Article 8. We'll try not to dwell on things that are somewhat boring, but let's see here. All right, again, highway surveyor. He does a great job. Most of these, to be honest, are secretarial kind of things in my mind that you have to kind of watch what's going on, but he's so good at it to get these funds and whatnot.
But an interesting thing that is new this year is
procurement officer.
Yeah, it's saying that we're voting to authorize the Brimfield Chief Procurement Officer with the approval of the highway surveyor to enter into contracts. In the past, we've always voted to have the highway surveyor
to do it.
enter into it.
He's an elected official.
Yeah.
I mean, it's his department that he's doing it. I don't understand that one. That might be.
And I think
So this is actually a vote. All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is going to be a vote. This is going to be an interesting one.
this is it. I was looking into it and trying to see if that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And there is a Mass General law that states that if you accept a certain Mass General law, which I don't think we have, it does require the Chief Procurement Officer to always be the one to enter into agreements.
Okay. So maybe
we
they're
just
trying
had-
to do that then.
Yeah,
And get on that path.
but I guess, but it's not required. And right now, I mean, our Chief Procurement Officer is an administrative assistant, and she's a very good administrative assistant, but she's an administrative assistant.
Yeah.
And I would rather have the highway surveyor or the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, sign the paper.
He'll probably talk about it, I would think, but he's sponsoring it as well.
Yeah,
So
but
you know what I
I
mean.
don't know.
So it'd be interesting to see.
what? So What happens if our chief procurement officer leaves?
Right.
Do we have to go to special town meeting because, it
The
says
approval of it. Oh, wait.
The
I
only-
also don't like the second part of it. Because it never used to be that either. Authorize a Brimfield, all right, let's see, town bylaws, enter into contracts with general insurance workers. Oh.
yeah,
No, I'm on the wrong one, I'm sorry.
oh yeah,
Yeah. With the approval of the surveyor to enter into contracts for the usual and customary operations of public works, including the care and pickup, upkeep. Okay. Yeah. Authorize with the approval. So that, if we did not have a procurement officer, this takes away the ability
to enter into
to
contracts.
enter into contracts.
Right.
Yeah. Right. It does. It does. And she is certified in procurement now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But
and just for the she wasn't when she first came on board.
Right. She didn't want to take this position, and I don't blame her for the stuff that was going on at the time.
Yeah. Those, yeah.
Yeah,
I wonder. But you know what? We'll try to get more clarification maybe from Zach, because I would like.
Well, you'll see this throughout everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a repeating.
Yeah, because we need to get
item.
If we don't have it needs to say authorize the procurement officer and the highway surveyor to enter into contracts.
And
you know
or.
what I mean? Or something like that, because you need redundancy. I'm really worried about being straddled with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We might have to get some legal expertise on that one. All right. 9, I'm sorry. Authorize, again, Chief Procurement Officer with the approval of the Select Board, as required by Chapter 1, Section 1 of the bylaws, to enter into contracts with general insurance workers. All right, so with the approval, all right, so basically, again, the authorization is going from the Select Board that it used to be to the Chief. Again, I'm wondering if they're painting themselves into a corner here.
Yeah, and this was always, the general insurance, the workers' comp, medical benefit. I signed on that.
Yeah, we always signed on that. Yeah, absolutely.
And that was something that
was always discussed in open meeting.
Yep.
And we signed it as a collective. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, if you don't have a chief procurement officer, then that could become problematic.
Right.
All right. I think.
Right.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I read it that way.
I read it that way. My legalese is a little bit rusty, maybe, but it makes me nervous.
Yeah, and I just want to. You can continue.
Right,
I want to look at this Chapter 1. I read it.
Chapter 1, Section 1.5 of the town bylaws. Again, the Select Board's required to do that, but I didn't. Anyhow. All right. Article 10, see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate, otherwise transfer to be added to the conservation fund as authorized by Mass General Law. So 40, Section C, Section 8C, Paragraph 8C, I'm sorry. Conservation. So this sounds like you have to do it anyhow, no matter what.
Right. So the Chapter 1, Section 5.1 says limitation on contracts. It has nothing to do with the procurement officer. It just says no board or officer, and that's that again. No board or officer shall make any contract. Not the chief procurement officer. It actually states
no officer.
Yeah.
They almost have to rescind that or change that bylaw to make that a legal article.
Yeah.
I wonder why that wasn't picked up. Again, maybe we're stupid. Maybe we're wrong.
That's right. We could be wrong.
Let's go see. But I think so. I might highlight that one just for the discussion, because now I'm curious.
Yeah. So this one, it basically just says we can't sign any contract beyond 1 year of the date thereof unless the contract contains subject to annual appropriation.
Right.
So that's all that comment says.
That's section
5.1.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So 10, I think, is pretty straightforward. It sounds like there's a Mass General Law that requires that you do it for the Conservation Commission. That sounds like
Correct.
Pretty straightforward. 11. Let's see. That's just the $50,000 for maintenance of the buildings. We never, I don't know how far, we've gotten down quite a bit sometimes because something will happen, a door needs to be done, or a roof needs to be done, or something happens. And that's just general maintenance for the buildings. And obviously those buildings are going to be the ones that are a little bit more dilapidated, so the hall and the annex are going to be probably the ones that we're looking at here. Maybe the library, depending on what the situation might be. But, all right, Article 12, good.
I want to say that usually goes into a revolving fund, but I want to say you've got to specify that. That's another one that.
But it's
because that doesn't go away every year.
Right. But there should be a line item for that. Is that this article? Is that the line item and this is voting on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a line item for maintenance in the budget.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that.
Again,
we have to get the budget.
wrong.
We'll get a little bit more clarification. I'll have to pull out maybe last year's and see if this is all in the same way. But all right. But $50,000 for repairs, and it should be done. How it gets done and where it gets done needs maybe we need some clarification. Maybe we're just misreading.
Right.
But we'll let that go. So 12,000, and this is for the weed control. So this is sponsored by the select board.
Oh, and they can enter it into themselves. They don't need the chief procurement officer on this one.
Yeah, but that law hasn't been approved yet. So this is going into weed control. But I'm going to tell you what happens. This didn't get discussed at a town meeting, at an open meeting.
We always discussed it.
Because Anna always used to come up and talk about it, and because there was always a little bit, when's it getting tested, who's doing it, what's going on, what other recourses do we have. If we had a dam, we could lower it down, 10, you lower that down 4 feet, you can kill all that milfoil.
Right.
Because the middle of Sherman is only like 12, maybe 15 feet on a high day. And so if you lowered that down and kill the milfoil during the winter, and then you dam it up and build it back up as soon as the spring comes, you wouldn't need to do this. And I know there's a problem with the dam, the location, and who owns the dam and all that, but that's just a major, this over 5 years would have paid for that dam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the Thames River grant is starting to get depleted because of the money that comes in.
I think it's a mistake. I think we need a bigger fix for this, or a different fix. Because I've looked at other towns with other lakes, and they just not what they do.
Right. Right.
It's a shame.
And interesting, going back to it should be discussed.
Mm-hmm.
How can the select board, and I get all the previous ones that are just boilerplate.
Yeah.
And if they don't discuss those, I don't have that big a problem with it.
Right.
But something like this, how can they sponsor, $12,462 proposal that got sent to them without voting on it?
Yeah, without discussing it in an open meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then,
I
know they wouldn't take anything from the public, but people who live on these waters ought to be able to, because Mill Pond ought to be part of that.
I would have liked to have been part of the discussion as an abutter to Mill Pond.
Right.
I know one of the years we did it, we invited Little Alum,
right,
and they said they didn't want it.
No,
because of the chemicals and this and that.
Yeah, and they did something as a collective.
Yeah.
As a lake
and
association.
They do it on their own.
Yeah, they do it on their own, and they may use a different company or a different whatever. I don't know how they do it, but they didn't necessarily want to do it.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if they became dependent on this, it could just as easily not be there. You know what I mean? Any day. And you wouldn't know this year whether it was being done or not because it wasn't really brought up. It certainly wasn't brought up for discussion.
It's really an interesting.
Because usually there's a contract that has to be signed.
Yeah.
There's usually a contract that they've got to do a study to see how effective it was the year before. They've got to do a study to kind of give a baseline, and then a study afterwards in November to say this is what happened
Right.
after we treated it, and then you do that all over again for the next year.
Right. And that's all done in public meetings so that everybody understands where this money went
Right.
to. And this
All right.
this board has not done anything, and now part of the town warrant is being done, and I just don't see how it can be.
Right.
The board didn't vote to put this on,
Right.
so who did? Stay
All
positive.
right.
Stay positive.
Stay positive. Article 13. Lucky 13. Vote transfer a sum of money, $48,000 from the Capital Purchase Stabilization Fund to be expanded by the Chief of Procurement Officer with the approval of the Select Board, subject to requirements of applicable bidding for the purchase of a. All right.
So why is that approval of the select board to
Well,
buy?
because it's a police department. Oh yeah.
We've always had the police chief go out and buy his vehicles that he wanted. We didn't have to
Right.
approve them.
Yeah. Right. The town approved putting the money in, and then.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're getting into a contract where you're buying something, maybe that's the point of that other thing, where they're saying you need to have. I don't know.
Well, you
The
should.
select board would have to authorize, yes, do it, right? I mean, I think.
No, the select board doesn't have to, because this is a warrant article that's being voted directly by the people, and the people could vote to approve the use of $48,000 for the police chief to buy a cruiser, based on
Right.
appropriate
Right.
procurement
If
laws.
the town says yes to 48,000, then the police chief ought to be able to buy the vehicle that he wants, and
Right.
not have to get a secondary approval by the select board.
Right. Same as
Expended by the chief procurement officer with the approval of the police chief.
yeah.
I mean, that would make more sense if we were going to go with that. You know what?
Yeah.
If that wording is screwed up in that first one, all of these
Are screwed up.
are screwed up.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Let's just assume.
We're staying positive.
I'm not exactly sure why the police chief. I mean, sponsored by the police department. That I don't know why the wording's like that. It might be something that we can get clarification when
Yeah.
we go to the meeting.
Yep.
All right. 14,000 for, let's see, what is it?
Yeah. So this is
Okay,
commercial
lawnmower,
lawnmower.
stuff like that. Yeah.
And again, it's the chief procurement officer with the approval of highway and
The
cemetery.
people are going to use it.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Yeah. So that one makes a little bit more sense. All right.
Although I still don't like that chief procurement officer.
No, I think they're, yeah. I think, I don't know, maybe, like I said, maybe they're paving the road for that. But I'm telling you, if there's no procurement officer,
We could be screwed.
how can they spend the money?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
You know what we could do? Like the treasurer collector, we could go and hire a consultant chief procurement officer for
Right.
$180 an hour
okay.
to come in and help us.
Okay.
Oh wait, am I?
You are. Let's stay positive here. Let's just. All right. 15.
Yeah, 70. We did that one, didn't we?
No, we
Oh
did
no,
14,
$7,100 for
71.
the PTO mounted debris blower.
Again, this is highway.
It's on the
survey-
cap plan.
Yep. So hopefully we'll have again someone to sign the papers.
Yep.
All right. Oops, sorry. 16.
$65,000 for the fire chief. See, so there's the approval of the fire chief to buy a UTV and trailer.
Right.
So that I don't understand why the
Why the
cruiser has to be.
why the chief can't
Yeah,
authorize his own? Yeah. He should. He might have to grow some and step up and say, you know what? Let's amend that. I would amend that.
Yeah.
On a town meeting. I
Yeah.
would.
I would
If
amend
I
it.
were chief, I would amend that.
you can do it anyway.
I can.
Yeah,
There you go. I might just amend that.
yeah.
All right. That's true. I can because it's a pure democracy at town meeting.
right.
All right.
Any of you can also.
Anybody can amend it. Article 17, defrayed of fiscal gazebo.
So
okay.
I just want to go back to 16. This had some questions on it.
Okay.
On why it's needed, and I just want to speak in favor of it, if I may. this is something that
Mm.
has come up, and it's a UTV, but it's a large UTV
Robust.
that has sleds attached that you can attach a back that you need at
Right.
the time. So if it's a forest fire, you can slide on the 500-gallon water tank.
Mm.
If it's a medical emergency, you can slide on the paramedic.
Right. It's
know.
like a Swiss Army utility knife.
Yeah,
You can use it for a lot of things.
yeah, and there was an event earlier this year or I think even earlier last month, where there was a hiker on Darth Hill Road that they had to go in,
Oh.
and they could have used this,
Right. Just with a facility.
to extricate
Yeah, I mean,
the-
we have
the
a lot of
person.
woods. We have
We
a lot
got
of
a
woods
lot
and
of woods.
trails and things like that, and even in people's back properties.
Yeah.
You never know you get somebody hunting like that, and we certainly have heard stories.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I think this is in this day and age. I think not to give them the equipment they need is kind of doesn't make sense. All right, now we're 17. 50,000 of defray the gazebo grant earmark deficit. All right, so the way I understand this one, right, is that this is there, but the state's supposed to come up with there's supposed to be
Right.
a grant money coming in that's going to pay.
Not grant, it was an earmark.
It was okay. Oh yeah. All right. So there was money coming in that was earmarked for the gazebo.
Yeah,
That's the way they put it.
gazebo grant earmark.
Yeah, I think it was supposedly coming from the state,
Right.
and this is in there in case bills come to fruition that we need to pay, and we haven't gotten that money from the state yet, but the state should replenish it right away. So in theory, it should be a wash. It's there as a safety so that we can pay for the gazebo, things that are still outstanding, and then get reimbursed and replenish it. So it ought to be a wash. I don't know why things have taken so long. I think that should have been done, but I guess the state. I don't know
Yeah,
why there's 50
I-
missing compared to the other.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened with that.
To me, I just have to look at the cost of that gazebo. It's a beautiful gazebo.
Yep.
I'm very proud of the work that we did
Yep.
on it. But man, that gazebo cost over $350,000.
Yeah.
The path and the lights were done for a grant for $290,
Yeah.
and then the gazebo itself with the flagpole and the sign that were never discussed in any public meeting.
Right.
That cost $111,000.
Yeah. I don't know. Right.
It seems like crazy.
It seems like it was a little bit much. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
that money, anyways, the 17 ought to be not really spent.
right. Right.
Push comes to shove, it shouldn't be. Hopefully, it won't be a big deal.
So we did get some questions here that
Okay.
the chief procurement officer is Teresa, the select board assistant,
Right.
and the police budget was always discussed by the chief in a select board public meeting. Did that happen? I can't remember, so I don't know. Not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't remember the chief actually taking the time to go over a budget.
No.
No,
And actually,
the
when you
only
look at-
thing he talked about, was something to do with the animal control. Remember that there was a little bit. They talked a little bit about the town, and then they were almost. Remember when
yeah, that's right.
we might use that money and just get our own. It was a little weird. I know they were getting into an agreement with the 3 towns. I think it was.
Yeah, Munson,
Palmer,
Palmer,
us.
and Ware.
And then I can't remember what day it was, but during that meeting, I just remember going. I thought we were in this agreement, and they were like talking about coming out of this agreement and doing something else. And so I don't know what happened with that, but because they never came back and they never said anything one way or the other.
Yeah, and even
So
at the FinCom meeting, I watched that with the chief, and he came with no papers and was discussing stuff, but it wasn't really
There weren't numbers like
like we were used to with
yeah.
Chief Cuss.
Usually you got
Chief Chief Cuss was great. Every year he'd have a new 5-year plan, or he'd be
For radios and
yeah,
and
getting his guys up in salary, the hours, his
Training.
hours. Everything he did was a 3 to 5 year plan that he would report on every year to us,
Yeah.
to FinCom, and it was
But
very.
I'm not
well
saying
laid out.
Bodie didn't present it. It just wasn't presented, and it may have been presented to one person. It may have been presented to 2 people, but it wasn't presented to 3 people because
Right.
otherwise we would have seen it.
You would hope.
Yes, we would. Yes, we would hope. All right. What do we got? 19. No. Okay. 18. 18. So 18 is.
This is $3,000 for a federal single audit,
Yep.
which is, I think, due to the ARPA funds or the CARES
Yeah.
Act funds.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not CARES, because that could lead to some issues
No,
with
I think
computers.
I think this may be an Yeah, I know. This may be an anticipation of spending more money in. I believe I thought it was $750,000 in federal grant monies. You get audited, and so it may be an anticipation of the ARPA.
Okay.
That's the only thing that I can think of. But actually, I'm kind of curious about it.
Yeah. But it has to be done. It's a great thing to have done.
Anyway,
Any audit
yeah.
that we can do
Yeah.
is a good audit,
Right.
especially with this crew.
Yep.
My opinion.
Yes. Okay. 19. Okay. All right. So, raise and appropriate, borrow or otherwise transfer $50,000 to be expended by the procurement officer, again with the approval of the Facilities Study Committee, which I am assuming is Building Committee 2.0.
Yes.
Okay. So they changed their name from Building Committee to Facilities Study Committee, which is fine. Subject to the requirements of applicable public procurement laws for the development, planning, and design of preliminary plans and specifications relative to the possible renovation, replacement, demolition, alteration, construction of town hall annex, library, and senior center, or take other action. So, in my mind, and it's interesting because the sponsor is not the Facility Study Committee. The sponsor is the Building Committee, which, someone just needs to- I hope they change that, but
I did hear that the select board was not in favor of this last night, and FinCom is going to take it out as well.
okay,
So
yeah,
which again, I don't think that's the appropriate thing to do.
Right.
I think that the building committee or facility study committee, whoever they want to be today, or whoever their handlers want to tell them they are, I think they could still bring this to the floor and just have,
a vote.
the finance committee doesn't agree with it, or
Right.
select board doesn't agree with it, but
Right.
it should come to a vote anyway.
Right. And so is this, the other building committee had a $50,000 seed money in case they needed to get
Yes.
some things done.
Right.
This is, and that, if I remember right, still had money in it.
Yeah, they had 17,000
Yeah,
from
17
2
or
years
50,
ago,
Yeah. It may have
and
been,
50 from last year.
and they got 50 from last
Yeah.
year. So,
I would like to amend this to say, remove the $67,000 from,
the account,
The
yeah,
building
from that
committee.
line.
because I don't trust I don't trust the majority of them.
Well, I don't know what they're going to use it for. I mean, there are a lot of,
I would like to just pull all money from them altogether.
Okay.
Which stinks because we need facilities.
Yeah, we need,
But again, the homogenous group that they've
Right.
assembled.
right, and the studies that we
Is-
already got, and there are a couple of meetings. There's one meeting actually posted, right? The video,
Yeah, there's a couple of meetings.
so it's interesting watching if people want to watch the new building committee. I think that there are a couple of videos out there, so that's good to watch and kind of see where they're at
Yeah.
with that. So, yeah, I don't know what they'll spend the $50,000 on, and it looks like really it's up to them only,
Right?
not the select board. watching over their shoulder either.
Right.
So
Just
there's
the chief procurement officer.
Yeah. Well, that's expended by the chief, but with the approval of them. So
Yeah.
if they say do it, it just goes funnels through the chief. The chief procurement officer can't say yay or nay. From the way I read this, it goes through there, so they know about it and they do it, but they get told to do it by the other side of that sentence. That's the way I read it.
Well, that's the same as everything up above too. That's the same way it's written.
Yeah, because it doesn't say approved by the procurement officer. It says expended with the approval of the second title.
Yeah.
So the second title's got to approve it and then send it through. Again, for the police department, the select board is the approving, and they put it through to the procurement, and the police chief has no say in it. That's the way I read it.
Yeah, that's what everyone else says too. It's to authorize the chief procurement officer with the approval of the highway surveyor.
Right. So, but I still believe that if we don't have a procurement officer, then I don't see who can expend it in their stead.
Right.
So that, I think the fundamental problem we have with that is the wording. And then the second fundamental problem is the approval agent. A facilities committee, the facilities study committee. When we were on the board and the building committee wanted to spend some of the money that they had, they came to us. And it was just, even if it was just this is what we're doing, we kind of tended to know where they were spending the money. Because I remember them having, well, we're going to use this, we're going to do this.
Yeah, I don't think they had to.
No, I think it was a courtesy.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it was a courtesy. But it also took it from their meeting, which is open, to the select board meeting, which should be more open.
Right.
More people, paying attention to it. Maybe, I don't know. To be able to say, this is what they did it.
And it's a whole lot easier to have courteous updates when you're courteous to all your different boards.
Yeah.
Which is lacking.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with that one. So that is 19. Let's go up to 20. 20 was an amendment of the zoning application site approval. So
this is a zoning bylaw change.
Yep.
Which will have to be approved by 2/3 vote.
Right.
And this is really just taking the copies down. So they're basically saying you don't need to produce 8 copies, 8 hard copies of your plans.
Right.
We just need 3.
Gotcha.
And then it goes on and talks about who those go to, because that's actually Article 21 removes a number of those copies.
Yeah. So I would say that down to, and this is sponsored by the planning board, they will explain if people have questions. It just sounds like they're trying to tidy things up a little bit, make things a little bit easier in this electronic age. All right.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. I don't think we need any paper copies. PDFs. If we could take some of those CARES Act computers that we don't know where they are,
right,
and give those to the planning board, to ZBA, and when an applicant comes in, you get a flash drive and tell them, everybody takes a turn in popping it in and doing what they need to.
Right.
It's on your computer. You can zoom in, you can pan, you can do anything you want, and see everything.
Right.
And right now I always find it funny. I'm a map guy.
Right.
And you go to a planning board meeting and, they roll out this big sheet and then everybody in the planning board comes up
and tries to look at it.
Talks over it and points at different things. It would be so easy to do this in a computer, project it behind us, and then instead of, wondering what they're pointing at and what they're saying, you could have the pointer and or even just have
laser pointer. You can just pass on. There it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. No, it makes no sense not to have that kind of technology around. And if you had,
and it should be town technology. It shouldn't be up to.
Yeah. Yep. Agree.
But
all right. So that'll be the planning board. Again, if you have any questions, they'll be more than happy to answer that. Next is, let me move this, oh, sorry everybody, I'll move this up. Capital Improvement Planning Committee.
You know,
I don't know who's on this.
this cap plan that we have now, we've got a cap plan group. That's the FinCom.
Right.
They've been doing it for 20 years now, starting with Norm and who's the other guy? I always forget his name. There was Norm and I want to say Stu, but that's not right. Stewart, is it?
I don't know. I'm not good.
So, whoever, I'm sorry, I forget the name.
No, somebody's going to text you, so you'll.
I know, I hope so.
I hope so too.
I got my text, my phone's out, so. But they've been doing it. And it's worked just fine, and we've got the mechanic comes in and talks about it. We've got the highway surveyor, the police chief, the fire chief. Eva sometimes participates from the senior center, talking about the van.
Right.
And, I don't really see the need for...
So I think it's interesting, the first paragraph. So I'm going to read it just so everybody's very clear about it. Known as the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, composed of one member of the Select Board, one member of the Finance Committee, one member of the Planning Board, one member of the Building Committee, also known as the Facilities Study Committee, and 3 residents of the town appointed by the Select Board. So that's 4 people of the Select Board, a member and 4 people that they appoint, which in and of its right, appointing is fine. I get it. But why should the Select Board be the one that appoints them all? Why wouldn't the Planning Board get to appoint somebody?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't the Building Committee, well, I mean, they already are kind of appointed, but the Finance Committee should have,
And they're appointed
have an appointed person. And why should the Select Board get 3 appointees and nobody else gets an appointee?
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, the highway surveyor, who's an elected official.
Right.
Why isn't he on this?
Right, because if anybody needs capital, it's these 300,000 and safety. I mean, they don't even have. They should have.
Yeah, and
I guess
what they're going for.
I don't know what they're going for.
I think they're going to want it to be where right now it's much more organic, and it's, they go in and they all talk about it. Like, if any of the people who wrote this could have attended a couple of these meetings, and I don't know if they did, maybe they did and didn't see what I see when I go. But, like, this is another one of those meetings that is so collaborative, so open. You've got the police chief talking about the needs of the highway department and vice versa, and everybody's talking about the senior center van and when it should be updated.
Right.
And, I trust their opinion more than I would, this group, which I guess is kind of like the building committee now anyway.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot in this. There's a lot.
Yeah, somebody took some time to do this.
And I don't understand it. So let's see. Involving major non-recurring tangible projects with assets costing over $25,000, useful life of at least 5 years, purchase intervals of not less than 5 years. So big 5-year purchases. But it's just basically they want an annual report and all that. And I get that, because we should have that. I think you do need. It's good to have a report. It's good to have things so that somebody could pick it up and say, this is the plan. The Select Board's recommended capital budgets, the committee's report, and the Select Board's recommended capital budget. What is that? What's the Select Board capital budget? Section 8.5.
Okay.
I don't know what that even means. Made available in a manner consistent with the distribution of the Finance Committee report. The committee shall deposit its original report with the town clerk. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what it all means.
And this is available. The capital plan is always available as part of the budget, which is part of the, part of the warrant, the final warrant.
And read this too. The committee shall consider relative need, blah, blah, blah. No appropriation shall be voted.
Where are you now?
Now I'm up at 8.2.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know, but because I keep on assuming, oh, it's not bad. But it says, no appropriation shall be voted on for a capital improvement requested by a department, blah, 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 unless the proposed capital improvement is considered in the committee's report. That's gonna, I just see this as being bogged down. Like, I don't understand. The committee shall first have submitted a report to the select board explaining the omission. What are they trying to do? This is wrong. I think this is like too complicated to explain. I don't think they'll be able to explain this at a town meeting. And I think this is going to take 45 minutes of discussion, and we still won't have anything clear.
Yeah.
I think this is too, it's not as clear as it should be.
No. And
For me.
again, without public participation, without a public meeting about this,
Right.
it
Why should the select
it
board,
was created in a vacuum, and it's
yeah, why
it
should
should
they be
be-
able to tell a highway that they can't get a bulldozer?
right.
I mean, why?
Yeah.
Oh, why? The fire needs a new truck, and they go to the floor. They go and they say, "We're going to need one in 5 years." Talk like they have been doing. FinCom does a great job doing it. I mean, if they want to have a committee that talks like that, great, but not with the approval of who are these people. You know what I mean? I don't think that's right at all. It's like overstepping their bounds. So,
Yeah.
all right.
So let me think about this. No appropriation shall be voted for a capital improvement requested by a department, board, or commission unless the proposed capital improvement is considered in the committee's report, or the committee shall first have submitted a report to the select board. So let's just say that tomorrow we have a boiler in the basement of the town hall that fails.
Right.
We need to buy it, and it's going to cost $30,000.
Okay.
You can probably get away with no boiler between now and the fiscal year.
Yeah.
So you might just put it on the warrant, but now you'd be barred from doing so because it's not on the
It's not in
improvement
some
plan.
report. And how often are they going to meet? And how often are they going to get this
Yeah.
report? How often does the report need to be made? The committee shall choose.
by
to-
April 1st of each year, right?
Is that
Including
okay.
shall by April 1st give the
Understood.
committee on. I don't know. It just seems like
I
they're
would like-
overly complicating
Right.
something that works.
I would love to know if planning, building committee, FinCom, how they feel about it, and how does police, fire, and highway feel about not being on it?
Yeah. Well, I think they're now going to be, instead of being collaborative, they're now going to come to this board and present their needs.
Right.
Which
I don't really mind all that much, but they should have representation as well. I mean, I see what they're trying to say is you can't have representation because there's a conflict of interest.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe that's where they're going with that. I don't
Wow.
know. I guess I need to figure out what this means broken down legal wise.
I think we need a seventh inning stretch. Your wife is requesting that you get up and do a little dance.
I'm not gonna. What? No, we're not doing that little dance thing. I could though. No. Don't tempt me. All right, let's just get going. We're almost done.
Okay.
All right. So, you know what? We got plenty of time.
We're in the weeds.
We're going to read this through,
Yes.
and then we'll come back with our understanding of it and whether it's right or not. I don't know.
All right. So now we're almost done.
Yeah, we're almost done. So let me get up to...
All right. So Article 23.
Everybody close your eyes. I'm going to get this up there.
So this is
Point right there.
under the provisions of Chapter 32B, Section 7A of the Mass General Laws, and in the addition
Okay.
to the payment of 50% of a premium for contributory
Life and health.
group life and health.
Yeah. So this was the amendment that they had to write
Yes.
to get back into the warrant. And so there's a good discussion in FinCom about this as
Yeah.
being, 50% health insurance payment is fairly standard across most municipalities from what they described.
Not 50.
Yeah, 50% of a premium.
That's not normal for municipalities.
I think it's pretty common. Maybe not. I don't know what normal means, but I think it's pretty common. Like a lot of them are going to that. That's kind of where that discussion.
No.
What?
No,
What do you say?
there are only a couple at 50 now. A lot of them wanted to go back to 50,
Oh, they're
but
from
they
80.
can't.
They're higher.
Yeah. So 50 is the basement of what you can do for a municipal employee.
Okay.
And in order to go from 50 to 51, you need this article.
Right.
And we're saying go up 10%. So
We're going from 40 to 50.
no, we're going from 50 to 60. 50 is as low as you can go.
In addition of the payment of 50% of the premium.
We will pay a subsidiary or additional rate of 10% for a total.
Oh,
of
I'm
60%.
sorry. I just saw the 50%. Okay, yeah. I knew they were going up.
Yeah. So
But why would you have to say in addition to the payment? So do you have to word it that way?
I think you do, because 50 is what's required by law. So now anything over 50, you've got it.
That's
But
the next
as
stipulation.
soon as you do this, the fear of this with FinCom was always we lose control. So at 50%, it can't be changed unless there's a vote on town meeting.
Right.
I
know what you're about to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, so once we allow 51% or 60%, now it's a vote of the select board to change
Right.
it from there.
Exactly right.
So if you end up getting a board, stack the board with teachers, they're all going to come in and say, we want
Right.
100%.
Right. And if they
And-
vote for that,
and the
that
board-
will go through.
Right.
Right.
And I'm just picking on the teachers.
Yeah.
Because
It's a hypothetical, and it's an
Hypothetical.
exaggerated hypothetical.
Yes.
So, all right. Okay, I knew it was going up, and actually when I saw 50%, I figured that's what it was going up to. But, because I didn't know you had to word it that way. So that explains the wording, and it explains the consternation that was kind of expressed
Right.
on so many levels.
Yeah.
But the understanding that we've got to be competitive.
Right.
And with the teachers, I think most teachers are above 50 in other places.
Yeah, so all of Tantascwa, with the exception of,
Wales.
of Brimfield, is above 50.
Yeah, Wales is the highest.
Right. Well, Wales, I think everybody right now, except for Brimfield, is at 60. Wales wants to go to 65 at this town meeting.
Are you sure? Because I thought that they were exceptionally higher at that.
And
Now,
I may be wrong.
I may have been on NyQuil when I watched it, but I'll have to go back and look. But it doesn't really matter what happens in Wales. With regard to our teachers, this was basically brought up and was decided upon to bring it up to 60%, which I think is good. I think we just have to watch that it doesn't get out of hand. I
Right.
didn't realize that was a little bit of opening the barn door a little bit.
Yeah. So questions are coming in about how many hours you have to work. It's considered 20 hours is considered full time. So anybody over 20 hours
It's a benefit.
is benefited employee.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, at 60%, it's still something. My wife's a teacher in a different district. She's at 80%.
All right.
My employees, I pay 100%. So it's still,
Yeah.
not the best.
Right. Right.
But
It just at least we just got to get it on par with the rest of the
right.
Tantascwa Regional, at least, and then see what the impact is. And kind of, you can't do everything all at once, to be honest. But this is a good stepping stone, and maybe it does go up.
Right.
Rightfully so. Teachers,
Yeah,
teachers need.
And not only teachers, but highway department is
Employees.
having a very tough time hiring a laborer because of our insurance. Right now, a person making $20 an hour, which is just $1.50 above our clerk. Most of our clerks are getting. It's very tough for them to have health insurance and get a paycheck.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, it is definitely the right thing to do, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I don't think it will dramatically increase. So the problem is, in any municipal government, it's called OPEB, and that's something that you're going to hear more and more of. It's
Should have looked it up.
it's called OPEB.
OPEB. Okay. Somebody, I'll get my phone.
And it's basically what a town has to do. What a town has to pay for all of its retirees, you know, and with a town with teachers, once you're vested, once you go 10 years, you're going to be paying for insurance, you know, continually.
Right.
And even and that's not only teachers, that's any town employee
Right.
can qualify for retirement benefits, which includes health insurance.
Right.
So bond agencies, other agencies are will follow this and will require a town to set aside money for OPEB, so that, you know, we know, because kind of like what's happened with Social Security, you know, everybody's saying how, you know, the workers today are paying for the retirement of people who retired 20 years ago.
Right.
You know, that can't happen anymore. And so OPEB is that big pile of money that is set aside. So every year that you work and you contribute to, you know, to stuff, we also have to contribute. You know, the town has to contribute into OPEB so that it covers you.
So the money will be there for the future.
Yeah. So
Right.
So
Gotcha.
60% may not be a very drastic advance from 50.
Now, but yeah.
But
later.
compound that over the next, you know, 20 years.
Right.
And that's a significant chunk of money.
Yep, absolutely. All right, couple more. Let's see. Article 24. What did I just do? Okay.
And this
here we
is
go.
this is some finance that you thought we were dry before. We'll read this and make you all dry. So
Oh yeah, this is
so yeah, it's just some bookkeeping,
yeah.
transferring money from one account to another. It all has to be done because it does include bond premiums and stuff like that. So it's all got to be written in a specific way.
Right. So 24, 25, 26, 27 are pretty much very similar to that, where it's bookkeeping and it's making sure that the books balance from the FinCom group. And so we probably don't even have to go into that, to be honest, because these are pretty straight up. And if you have any questions, they will absolutely answer them. Usually by the time we get to this, it's just going to go.
Yeah.
You know, you're just going to have to take their word for it. These are the numbers. If you notice that some of them don't have any numbers, it's just sum of money. That it will be determined in that hour before the meeting. Before that, but it's going to be discussed, and a number will be given to each one of those.
Right.
So, and I think that is it. Let me see. Is that it? I think it is it.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah, look at that. It's signed. Oh, Mr. Adams didn't sign.
no, he didn't.
He must not have been there. Oh yeah, he said he wasn't going to be there this week. He was away
That's
this
right.
week. Remember when they were making the meeting happen? So, all right, there you go.
So now there are some more questions about, 20 hours being full time, and that is something I want to say that's even a state regulation. It has nothing to do with Brimfield per se, and the IRS defines part time as less than 30. Yes, and then private employers can say whatever they want, but that's
who's giving you grief?
Now Michelle is saying we both have a lot of homework.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
I mean,
get these answers for next
no,
week.
actually, we've got a little homework.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to have a little clicker thing now. Oh, that's another thing we should probably talk about. There is going to be an electronic voting capability at this meeting, and so what that means basically is there's going to be something like in this case I've got a mouse, but it's going to be a little bit of a clicker where you can say yes, no, or abstain. I think,
Yeah.
so that your vote can count, and you should vote for everything. Even if you don't know what's going on, you don't feel comfortable with it, and you don't know whether it's yes or no, hit the abstain button. You know what I mean? But at least have your vote counted in, who voted for what for all these different articles. So that's going to be an interesting thing. We've never done that before. That is something that I remember looking into, and Sturbridge had it during COVID, and I thought it was really a great idea when we first discussed it with Deb, and Deb thought the town clerk, and that seemed like it was going to be a great idea to kind of get it going. And at the time, it was a little bit expensive, but
ARPA funds.
We
got Arbor.
We probably could have used CARES for that as well, but it wasn't as clear for that, and a lot of people had it denied. So, anyways, we did look into it, and this is good. I think that's a good thing. I don't know how it will work out, in open without it being in an auditorium type of setting. So it'll be interesting. They're going to have monitors so you can see it in live.
Right.
And I don't know how many they'll have.
Hopefully this will all happen. They're supposed to be there for this town meeting, but
right.
Technology and
delivery
and implementation may. So, but people are hopeful that it's going to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like it probably will be. We're hoping it will be, because I think it makes it a little bit easier than holding up a card and having people vote. I think that's kind of off. So I think that's it. I don't know what time we've got. Oh yeah, that was longer than I thought it was going to be. I knew this was going to take a lot. Next time we'll be prepared. The election ballot is on the website, so we want people to read the election ballot. I think I would read it because it was very interesting, because sometimes what happened at the caucus didn't really, I'm going to put this little tease, it didn't really relate to some of the election ballot names and
the final ballot.
So the final ballot, and so that's another question, and I want people to think about this too. Is I talked to the town clerk about options not using a caucus anymore, because the caucus, and we'll go into this next week, as far as manipulation of a caucus and things like that, because it can be done. So if we got rid of the caucus, we could just have people who wanted to vote pull papers and get signatures and then just turn them in. And like a lot of other municipalities do. The caucus might be a little bit old, and maybe it's kind of past its time, in my opinion. So we may want to create a bylaw for next town meeting to get rid of the caucus in its entirety and just change it. I think that would not be a bad idea in my mind, in my opinion. The other thing that some towns have done is that they've had 2 town meetings a year, just so that there wasn't this 1 year to get something done. There wasn't a huge interval of time that made that. I mean, I know that's more expensive, and maybe people don't want to deal with that, but that is something that kind of consider. Other towns have done that. But all right, what do we got? Anything?
So one thing that I meant to mention the past couple of times, which I've forgotten, and so have you, was welcoming a new restaurant in town. Athens, the beloved pizza place.
Yeah. Yep. Good point.
Yeah, Sophie's Place is going to be opening. I heard they're going to open May 18th or somewhere around there. It's supposed to be some good high-end coffee and some breakfast type stuff.
Yeah.
So
we welcome them to the community, and hopefully people will pay attention when they get their doors open. I'm sure it'll be all over social media, and we'll have, let's say the third. Yeah, we'll have probably another meeting that we can give them a little bit of a positive plug before they open. So I don't know what this gets them, but it's good to have businesses in town. So we like that.
Right.
All right.
Are
we done?
So with that,
all right. I think we ought to probably say goodbye to everybody. Children. And again, I hope that went. And so we'll put ourselves up there a little bit. And I think, what's next week? Is there a meeting?
Meeting is next week. Yeah.
They'll
post it on Thursday, supposedly.
Okay. So we'll see. We'll get the agenda. We'll talk about the meeting next time, and hopefully talk about the election. We've got a couple meetings before that.
Yep.
All right, excellent. Oh, this might be real. I gotta get on social media.
All right.
Okay. All right. We'll see you, everybody.
Have
All
a
right.
good week.
Yep. Bye now.
Bye bye.